Well, hello again. This week we pulled up our leg warmers, took our passion, made it happen for 1983's Flashdance. 40 years on, Flashdance remains a flashpoint in our culture, in part from the immersion of MTV, the art of video production, and an amazing soundtrack. So Flashdance set the stage, pun intended, for other dance videos of the 1980s, including our beloved first episode, Dirty Dancing. Released 40 years ago, Flashdance was created by a production partnership that would define Hollywood for the rest of the decade, while also having major impacts on fashion, music, and yes, dance. Flashdance narrative became a formula for the dance movie genre almost immediately. The talented dancer with a working class background who finds romance and overcomes obstacles to achieve their dream of dancing at a prestigious institution may seem familiar because of the amazing true story of Flashdance itself. But you've seen this formula in other hit dance movies like Center Stage, Save the Last Dance, and Burlesque, starring Cher. By now, we know that Flashdance follows welder by day, dancer by night Alex, the Steeltown girl, on a Saturday night as she takes her passion and makes it happen. Untrained in dance and drawing inspiration from ballet, freestyle, and even breakdancing, Alex's unique style of dance movements came from jazz, freestyle, and modern interpretations of dance. This, combined with a soundtrack full of catchy tunes the audience would go crazy for, supervisor Phil Ramone, composer Giorgio Moroder, and the rest of the production team ensured their songs would hit the right notes with audiences. The soundtrack complemented the exhilarating dance routines from the movie, and MTV had videos on strong rotation. This set the stage for upbeat anthems that let fans relive the story or rock out to their own story as they worked to make their dreams a reality. Although Flashdance turns 40 this year, its influence shows no sign of slowing down. As discussed in our episode, the fitness craze had just hit America and women were finally allowed to be fit, strong, and athletic. Women could finally show off their toned physique, sleek muscles, and dance-ready bodies, all complemented by their leg warmers. Today, fitness platforms still encourage aerobic and dance activities in their routines, and the 1980s fashion that we saw is making a major comeback. And along with the music and visuals, Flashdance was influential for several outfits that Alex wore. The film's poster and soundtrack features an iconic off-the-shoulder sweatshirt based on modifications that Beale herself made to her own clothes. After her favorite shirt of a similar style had shrunk in the wash, she cut the head hole wider so it would still fit. When she wore the shirt to a wardrobe fitting for the film, Lynn was crazy for the look. The wardrobe department designed a new top to reflect the style, and it wound up on the movie's poster and soundtrack. The asymmetrical off-the-shoulder trend became an 80s staple, as did the signature leg warmers that Beale sports in several scenes. In the 40 years since Flashdance release, it has gained a special type of notoriety, most of which is the fact that Beale did very little of the dance routines herself. Many of those scenes were performed by body doubles, and in the final audition scene, there were actually several body doubles who performed those dances. Most prominently, the French gymnast Marine Jahan performed the majority of the dance moves throughout the movie. But in the climactic scene where she auditions, there was another dancer, a male dancer, Richard Cologne, better known as Crazy Legs. And initially, Cologne was brought in to teach the other doubles how to perform the moves, but he was brought in the day before shooting began, and it was determined there was simply not enough time. So the obvious answer was for him to shave his just grown mustache and his legs and get that leotard and leg warmers on himself and perform the moves that we see in the movie. To quote him, "I was this little arrogant Puerto Rican from the Bronx with all this machismo. I put my hands up to Lynn's face and rubbed my fingers together and said, 'You gotta give me the money.'" They paid enough, and in the next decades, he said the residual checks definitely came in handy. And he would often joke that he was the first hip hop performer to perform in drag. So, as we saw in the movie, Flashdance is not a traditional musical, but it played like one. For example, compare previous episodes Grease and In the Heights. These movies showed meticulously choreographed music and dance numbers, whereas Flashdance had a series of choreographed montages instead. And at the time, critics derided the result as little more than a series of MTV-style videos connected by very thin threads of plot and character. But the quick editing style soon became vastly popular in Hollywood. Critics continued to complain about this style because they said that what we gain through this quicker editing process, we lose in narrative, character, emotion, and that this technique had essentially dumbed down filmmaking. One study found that the average shot had declined from 8 to 11 seconds in the 30s to about 3 to 4 seconds in the 1980s. But where there are detractors, there are supporters. Some directors argued that the MTV-style film editing was a way of packing more content into a shorter time frame for younger viewers who were more accustomed to quick editing times. And in fact, it took directors trained on music short videos like Spike Jonze and David Fincher to figure out how to use the abstract nature of MTV-style editing to tell more complex, nonlinear stories. As mentioned in the episode, the basis of Flashdance was from a real bar where people would perform most notably avant-garde dance numbers. Screenwriter Thomas Headley based the script on a true story of Maureen Martyr, who worked construction by day and was an exotic dancer by night in Toronto. Maureen eventually saw 4 of his screenplays get produced between 1980 and 1982, but Flashdance would have to wait as it changed hands between buyers yet again to land at its eventual production house, Paramount Pictures, where none other than Joe Esterhaus picked up the script and produced it. The production duo that would eventually get Flashdance on screen would set the tone for the rest of the 1980s. Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer were friends with established Hollywood experience. The pair decided to become an official team and took Flashdance on, hiring Adrian Lynn to direct, who had experience in commercials and one feature film under his belt, the 1980 coming-of-age film Foxes, starring Jodie Foster. Flashdance story struck many as implausible despite its real-life origin, but Simpson and Bruckheimer saw the potential in its feel-good elements. When Flashdance hit theaters 40 years ago, Many reviewers were less than kind. None other than Roger Ebert himself singled out Beals for praise, but a rather large number of critics dumped on the story and style. But this had absolutely no effect on audiences, as this oddball dance film with a budget of only $7 million would go on to pull in more than $200 million worldwide. And in the US, it finished only third, behind Terms of Endearment, #2, and a little art house film you may have heard of, Return of the Jedi. So Flashdance is in amazing company. So 40 years on, Flashdance has stuck around in popular consciousness through its visuals and its sounds. It's a fair bet that the title song that never actually utters the word Flashdance will stick around as long as 80s playlists are a thing. Irene Cara's smash Flashdance, What a Feeling, won the 1983 Academy Award for Best Original Song. Simpson and Bruckheimer's legacy includes enormously popular films that not only resonate with popular audiences, but pull in the big bucks at the box office. Beals emerged as a strong talent with an enduring career. It might not have been regarded as a great movie, but Flashdance has certainly been influential and a prime example of taking your passion and making it happen. And some films are made in their decade, and some films make their decade. And Flashdance absolutely made the 80s. So to celebrate Flashdance's 40th year, put on your leotards, get on your 10-speed, take your passion and make it happen. Be sure to hit that subscribe button like a maniac to ensure that you don't miss a thing. Thank you so much to our listeners and viewers. We appreciate all of the support. New episodes of the Real Relationships podcast drop every Thursday. We are looking forward to bringing you more great content, and we will see you soon. Thank you.